How's it going, everybody? Rob here, back with another video, and oh lord, I want to take a quick look at a couple, or at least one thing in particular with this video, and then I got another one planned, responding to this exact person. But right now, I just want to focus on this one video because I always thought this was interesting. The reality of dogs. That's why I make videos. This is from the channel K-Nun. So it's been really interesting, you know, in terms of like responding to some of their content. So anyway, let's go ahead and as well, you know, I'll say this, including some of the people who have radicalized their viewpoints. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started on this.
I have been producing this content for some time now. I do not believe I've made a video, at least not in recent times, fully elucidating the aim of this channel.
Sure.
The purpose of this particular video is not to debunk unjust, unwarranted, and erroneous judgments or criticisms lobbied against myself, and perhaps others in this space. However, this video will serve to do just that. I make these videos because I want to convince as many people as possible about the reality of dogs.
Here's a question, because when they say reality of dogs, because again, granted, there are issues involving dogs, but you want to create a stigma. You want to, in a sense, lump everyone together in terms of the dog community. You feel that dogs, like all dogs, should be removed. So I have to ask, is it really the reality of dogs, or more so your reality? Because let's be fair here, and in situations where, like, let's say, again, if in terms of like aggressive behavior from dogs, I mean, if we were to outright ban them by on principle by your beliefs, then we'd have to start, you know, being hyper focused, or more so, very, very aggressive on other things going on. Especially, let's say, if, for instance, people who are, let's say, you know what, one of the biggest issues is people who commit shoplifting. Like, should we, you know, remove them from the country to, you know, get rid of shoplifters? Or actually, if anything, in third world countries, and I want to say, like, especially with, I want to say for the U.S., normally, if a person shoplifts, they will try to get as much information they can and then go after the person after the fact. But in third world countries, if you go and steal something, then they cut off a hand. So should locations like Europe and U.S. begin to do that? To get, like, basically implement the extreme to deal with shoplifters.
The reality of dogs is complex and goes well beyond the aspects of their evolutionary history that are often brought up as a justification for their presence in human communities.
It's not much of just a justification. It's the fact that they've been proven to be, you know, due to us domesticating them, they have their uses. I think that's borderline fact.
It entails an acknowledgement of the brutal and obvious truths about their behavior and their proclivities.
Not all of them. Let's be honest here. Not all of them. There are certain cases which, again, you try to lump everyone together, but you should really be looking at this by a case-by-case basis, not lumping every dog and dog owner in the same spectrum.
As well as the various detrimental effects of their presence in human settlements. It also entails an honest
In some cases, yes.
Acknowledgement of the responsibilities of their ownership, which is to say, how little of it there seems to be among dog owners as a whole. Dogs are not fluffy companions. They are not harmless, and their ownership is not some benign personal choice that has no negative effect on others. Rather,
vicious pit bull attacks, caught on camera. Okay.
The opposite is true. Dogs are simplistic creatures, often falsely said to exhibit complex behaviors. They are also violent, destructive, intrusive, and they are classified as an invasive species.
I mean, let's be fair here. I mean, there are other invasive species. I mean, in some studies, let's in some studies you have people, classifying humanity, even like some talks of humans classifying humanity as an invasive species, where we have migrated and settled in various countries, only for us to take over other settlements in order to, expand what culture or territory that we own or want, for that matter. So there are other forms of invasive species that affect humanity. In fact, we ourselves are probably the biggest invasive species on this planet.
For good reason. They do have needs, many of which dog owners in modern cities are incapable of meeting, and
I want to say the biggest, I want to say where it's more affected in terms of dog attacks is more so in, especially with the issue with rabies. If we were to look at like countries and the way they're able to handle or deal with the problem involving dog attacks, the biggest issues, or at least it's more prevalent in areas like Asia and Africa, especially when, in a lot of those countries, you have, I want to say, a not as effective way to deal with the animals there, as well as, to an extent, least frequent use of the rabies vaccine if somebody is attacked by a dog that has rabies. But in areas like, let's say, the U.S. and Europe, let's be fair here. I mean, what am I saying? You're not going to be fair. Countries like U.S., Europe, so on, they have a better handle of some of these situations. Granted, yes, there are times where certain cases fall through the cracks. I myself have heard stories of people dealing with pit bulls, and even though they are classified as, for some communities, classified as a quote unquote nanny dog, they can be destructive. They can be, in terms of that, they will go into other people's properties. Like, let's say even if somebody has a fence, I've heard stories of these particular animals, these particular dogs, before you even say anything, going out, basically going into another person's property, tearing up a wooden fence, and then trying to squeeze through the fence in order to get into the other yard. Things like that have happened. However, again, everything needs to be put in a case-by-case basis. Not this, oh, no, if one's bad, then all of them are bad. No, you can't be looking at it that way.
History shaped by selective breeding. They also possess qualities that make them very incompatible with civil human society. I
mean, like, how? You're just making a statement. You know that, right? With this, close to 2-minute video, all you're doing is making a statement. Like, what is a good example? Like, really? But anyway,
where this is most readily apparent, perhaps, is in towns and cities.
I mean, so far for a lot of people, they've proven their usefulness. I think, if anything, especially with channels like this, they should be focusing on the actual issues. Like, and before anybody says anything, I'm talking about looking at this by case basis. If you see a story in particular that involves a dog attack, then you know what? Discuss that particular story. Don't try to lump everyone together, because let's face it, in a sense, where you with some of these people, where they want a dog-free community, with how ingrained dogs are, that is either never going to happen, or it's going to take an immense amount of time, energy, money, etc., to even try to implement. And no amount of wishful thinking is going to make that happen anytime soon. So, I think, especially, again, the more, especially with these particular channels that have radicalized their thinking. I think if you're going to talk about the issues with dogs, then talk by case-by-case basis. Not lump everyone together, not treat everyone. You know, if anything, it kind of reminds me, like how these people act kind of reminds me of sort of the stigma involving drug and alcohol, alcoholism, or drug addiction alcoholism, where you have people that have a certain belief of, you know, people who are suffering from alcoholism or drugs, where you have like, oh, you do drugs, okay, you're automatically bad, but not even realizing just the complexity of the issue, realizing that for a lot of people, their addiction, whether it be alcohol or illicit drugs, ultimately is a form of illness. Because over time, with continuous use of using a particular, you know, substance, their brain chemistry alters. And over time, not only do they gain a want for it, but it ultimately becomes a need. They become addicted. They become, you know, just like they can't live without the substance that they've been abusing. In fact, you know what? In terms of correlation with that, I want to say to some extent, and, you know, people can, you know, try to denounce it all they want, but it does seem like, especially with these particular individuals, the radical people who are the in the dog-free community, it does seem that these people are not well. They focus so much time on dogs, spent so much time on trying to, you know, treat everyone or lump everyone as the enemy, when in reality, they're not. Not everyone is bad in the eyes of the public. Just because somebody owns a dog, or at least you can't just immediately claim that they are, you know, evil. You can't claim that they're bad because they own a dog. I think, again, this situation involving, you know, dog issues, the issues of the dog owners, needs to be talked about by each singular story. Not just lumping everyone together, not just assuming that all, you know, owners and dogs are bad. When a lot of times, especially when, you know, when it comes to good owners, their animals will not attack people. If you want to, if you want to be genuinely honest about this topic, or, you know, at the very least have some support of, you know, the issues that you're discussing, especially with like some of the people that, let's say, own animals or own dogs, maybe perhaps instead of lumping everyone together, focus on each story in a singular matter and go from there. But something tells me you're not going to. But anyway, that was my video responding to this. This was interesting, to say the least. So, everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it if you guys can. Please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. And I'll see you guys next video.